So I went on CNN this morning and found an interesting article. Today we're going to break down the myth of the peaceful Palestinian city. This has some nuance, so stay with me here. My conclusions today might not be exactly what you might think. I'm Ben, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, let's dive right into this article. This is from CNN. The palm trees that line the roads in this desert city near the Dead Sea have been famous for millennia. The plain of the Valley of Jericho and the City of Palms is written in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. The Palestinian city's beauty, archaeological sites, and history with claims as one of the oldest cities in the world and the lowest below sea level have long made it a staple on the international tourist circuit. It's also home to weekend villas for many wealthy Palestinians. Until earlier this year, Jericho was considered one of the quietest parts of the Israeli-occupied West Bank, where residents were more likely to encounter a tourist than an Israeli soldier. Now parts of the city, especially the Aqaba Jabal refugee camp, are seeing decor more common in restive areas of the West Bank like Jenin and Nablus. Posters commemorating the martyrdom, their quotes, of locals killed by an Israeli military is described here as occupation forces. Bullet holes dot some of the homes. 9 people have been killed so far this year. In typical current mainstream cable news fashion, mainstream newspaper fashion, they break right here with a nice big juicy photo of Jericho. What's the problem with that, you might ask? Because in these first couple of paragraphs, they set up a narrative, and they set up a pretty insidious, if not outrightly false narrative. And the way they get away with it is they put the rest of the facts in the article. But they pretend in a way, or they lead the viewer in a way to think that the entire article is encapsulated in these first 4 small paragraphs. Photo break. Average viewer, 99, probably 0.9% of the viewers stop at the photo break. Think this is a summary of the article. More details to follow. Who needs the more details? On to the next headline. CNN knows this. Almost guaranteed that they know this. And this is a common practice that a lot of cable news and newspapers do all the time, and it is insidious because they actually put the facts of this story, or some of the facts of the story, later on underneath the photo break. So they break for a photo, and you get this picture painted, okay? The picture painted here is that Jericho is a peaceful city. We'll look at that in a little bit. Is a peaceful city with a long, rich history. And out of the blue, Israeli occupying forces, military, comes in for no reason, and they kill 9 Palestinians, and Jericho is no longer a peaceful city. They put the posters of those terrorists. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. They put the posters of those young men killed by Israeli soldiers on lampposts and street corners, and now Jericho is not a peaceful city anymore. So they go on underneath the photo break. Quote, Aqaba Jabal refugee camp houses thousands of Palestinians who have lived there since fleeing or being evicted from their homes in 1948 during Israel's founding. Israeli security forces say that there's been an increase in terrorist activities in the camp since the beginning of this year, and they are acting off precise intelligence to prevent further attacks. One American Israeli, 27-year-old Ilan Ganalis, was killed in a shooting attack just outside Jericho in February. Weeks earlier, the Israeli Defense Forces said militants tried to open fire at a nearby Israeli restaurant, but their gun malfunctioned in the process. So right here in the article, CNN is admitting the reason the Israeli military was coming into the peaceful city of Jericho was because young men from the city of Jericho had murdered American-Israeli Ilan Ganelis right outside of Jericho, and then attempted to murder Israeli civilians in a restaurant close by, but thankfully it did not actually happen. CNN goes on to tell this whole sob story about this 22-year-old man, Muhammad Hamdan, who nobody knows who he was, but he was killed March 1st in the Israeli raid, and nobody really knows why. The military said he was complicit and, kind of accidentally killed, but the point is they actually put the facts. They actually put the facts of this in the story. Guys, if you like this content that we are producing, boots on the ground from the land of Israel, 5 shows a week, don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button below the video, hit the little bell next to it, leave us a comment down below. We'd love engaging with you there in the comments. So CNN is trying to paint this as a very dramatic, emotional way. And in a way, it is sad. It is sad whenever you have the ins and outs of people dying, families broken up. All of this is extremely sad on an individual, on an emotional kind of a level. But sometimes you do have to step back and look at things in a broader sense. So by CNN's own account here, the military was coming into Jericho specifically to hunt down murderers. They were coming in to specifically enforce justice inside of the city of Jericho. So they go on here from CNN. As the head of the refugee camps community committee, Jamal Awadat is on the front lines, not only of this violence, but also the long-term deprivation of basic services caused by the months-long strike by Palestinian workers of the United Nations programs. He said, the killings that you are practicing will not bring any security in any way. I believe talking about the military. The killing will create rebels. When you kill someone that has 4 brothers, one of them will want revenge. Awada does not doubt that the young people around him are upset and restive, but that does not, he says, make them the terrorist threat that Israel claims they are. So this guy is obviously lying through his teeth. We've dealt with this a number of times in our own investigations as well. A lot of these Arab community leaders do not hesitate to lie straight up through their teeth for their own political benefit, and he is flipping this narrative on its head and he's claiming that Jericho was a peaceful city and saying that the IDF coming in to do a mission is inciting young men to commit terrorist attacks, or inciting them to, and he wouldn't even call them terrorists, but inciting them to commit these acts, when in reality, even according to CNN's own article, the reality is flipped. They got the cart behind the horse, or the cart in front of the horse. The reality is that these young men committed a terrorist attack, and then in response to enforce justice as they should, as a good democratic nation, Israel sent their law enforcement into Jericho to arrest murderers. And in the arresting of murderers, the quote-unquote peace of Jericho was disturbed. So I want to ask this head of the community committee, whatever his title is here in Jericho that they got to speak, what is the alternative? Is the alternative for the Israeli military and the PA to let murderers stay on the loose and to continue to murder Israeli civilians? Obviously, CNN was not going to ask him that question, even though they should. We'll get back to more details on this in just a second. But first, the Israel Bible is an incredible resource for anyone seeking to deepen their understanding of the Bible and its connection to the land of Israel. Imagine exploring the same historical sites mentioned in the Bible, walking in the footsteps of the prophets and the patriarchs, and experiencing the Holy Land of Israel like never before. Whether you're studying the Bible at home, in church, or on the go, the Israel Bible provides a wealth of resources, including commentaries, maps, and historical insights to help you gain a deeper understanding of the biblical text. It's a resource that brings together people of all faiths who share the love and appreciation for the Holy Land. With the Israel Bible, you'll also discover the beauty of Israel, from its stunning beaches and forests to its majestic mountains and deserts. So whether you're a pro-Israel Christian or someone who simply wants to learn more about the Bible and the Holy Land, the Israel Bible is the perfect guide for your journey. Right now, the Israel Bible is on sale for 57% off. Purchase the Israel Bible today by clicking the link in the description below. Okay, so now that we've established that CNN is allowing the people that they interview in their articles to spin stories in a direct opposite approach to reality, I think it's time that we establish some truths, especially in this issue with Israel and the Palestinians, this conflict that's been going on for tens of years at this point. We have to get to some truth. There's so much politicking that goes on inside of these situations that sometimes you really have to step back and say what is true. And the fact of the matter is, Palestinians do not live a good life. I'm going to put that out there. Palestinians, your average Joe on the street, do not live a good life. And it's not for the reasons that cable news and mainstream newspapers would like you to believe. It's not because of Israeli oppression. They live terrible lives because of Palestinian oppression. Palestinians live in a state of dictatorship. That's just a fact. They live in an oppressive regime run by dictators. The Palestinian Authority is an awful government. They're an awful government. They deprive Palestinians of basic human rights every single day. Free speech does not exist. If Palestinians spoke out against the Palestinian Authority in many communities, they would be tortured in ways unimaginable. The fact is that Palestinians live in a state of limbo in between an Israeli government and Israeli citizens that live in Judea and Samaria, and in between their own de facto dictatorship government of the Palestinian Authority. Many of them work in Israeli cities and communities, but are not actual Israeli citizens. This is very difficult. Many young Palestinians are angry and entitled and are encouraged by their communities and by their community leaders to take out their anger, take out their wrath on innocent Israelis, which creates a state of tension in between Palestinians and Israelis and forces the Israeli government to respond by hunting down these terrorists unequivocally, which puts pressure on innocent civilians, on innocent Palestinian civilians who aren't involved in the attack. It is a terrible state for the Palestinian people. Now, what is the solution? Many politicians for years and years and years have put out this thing called the two-state solution, where Israel gives Judea and Samaria to the Palestinians to create their own state. Guys, the two-state solution in 2023 is dead. That is just the fact of the matter. The two-state solution is absolutely dead. Politicians who are parroting this term two-state solutions do not care about Israel, they do not care about Palestinians, and they do not care about creating lasting change inside of Israel, inside of Judea and Samaria for Palestinians or Israelis, because the facts are very clear that the two-state solution is dead. Like it or not, Israel has an absolute biblical claim to Judea and Samaria, to the West Bank, given to them by God. It is the site of many very famous historical biblical places. Israel, Judea and Samaria is Israel's ancestral homeland, and it has been given to them by God. Full stop. Like it or not, that's the reality. Like it or not, Israeli security dictates that Israel needs Judea and Samaria. Without Judea and Samaria, Israel is 9 miles wide at its narrowest point. Many have called this Auschwitz borders because they are undefensible from Israel's neighbors that would like to drive them into the sea, and have attempted so on multiple occasions. So from a security standpoint, like it or not, a two-state solution is dead. Like it or not, settlements are entrenched. Settlements, the communities, the beautiful cities that Israel has built on barren hilltops in Judea and Samaria are not going anywhere. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis live there, work there, play there, send their kids to school there, get married there, build homes there, and they are not going anywhere. It is not physically possible to move these settlements, and Israel would not have the governmental support to move them even by vote count from the hundreds of thousands of Israelis that do live in Judea and Samaria. And like it or not, Arab self-rule inside of Judea and Samaria is not possible. It has been proved over and over and over again that the PA and Hamas are not capable of ruling Palestinians in an acceptable fashion. So, what is a good solution going forward from here? Obviously, I don't have the solution. No one has the solution. This is a very complicated issue. A number of solutions have been proposed, but in its basics, in 1948, after 1948, Israel gave a very clear path to citizenship for Arabs, for Palestinians that lived inside of what they call Israel proper, Israel outside of Judea and Samaria. And many Palestinians did work towards and were granted citizenship inside of Israel, which means full equal rights under the Israeli government. They have their own representatives they can vote in with the Knesset, but under Israeli law, they are Israelis. There's no distinction between Jews and Arabs. They live with equal rights in every possible way. So, in that vein, it stands to reason that inside of Judea and Samaria, it would be very possible for Israel to annex, to declare sovereignty over Judea and Samaria for the reasons that we just discussed, and to give Palestinians who want to live under the modern state of Israel, who want the economic benefits, who want the spiritual benefits, who want the community benefits, the benefit of peace and a normal life with dignity as a citizen. It stands to reason that those Arabs could be given some form of Israeli citizenship with equal rights alongside of Jews, and those who want to see the Jews thrown into the sea could find a different place to live. Israel is established in the land. They are not going anywhere anytime soon. If politicians care about this issue at all, if they care about Palestinians or Jews in any way, I encourage you, please, please, please stop talking about a two-state solution. There's only one solution, one broad solution inside of Israel, and that is Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. How that is implemented in its specifics is complicated and will be a matter for the politicians to work out. There's a lot of nuances to this, but I call on Arabs especially because I know a lot of you want to live under Israeli rule as Israeli citizens because you see the benefit. I call on you to accept Israel as the state that God created it as. Accept Israel has ancestral rights to the land of Israel and enter into the blessing of Abraham by supporting what is in fact, at the end of the day, in your own best interest as Arabs. I call on world leaders to support Israel in declaring sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, and I call on the Israeli government to have the courage and strength to do what they know is right. Don't forget to subscribe and get the conversation going down below. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.